Greetings. My name is Deirdre Harris Kelly. Along with Joanne Bryant Reed, I'm one of the co-directors of the Bearden Foundation. On behalf of the Board of Directors, I welcome you and thank you for sharing your time with us tonight. The Bearden Foundation is the nonprofit organization that perpetuates the legacy of Romare Bearden. We do this through exhibitions and free educational and public programming, such as the Sin-K Artist Series, which you're watching tonight. This program takes its name from the nonprofit gallery, Sin-K Gallery, Bearden found along with artists Norman Lewis and Ernest Critchlow in the 1960s. To support artists and exhibitions and curatorial opportunities, but also to create networking opportunities and areas for artists. And this program is taken from that legacy program, and it hopes to continue Bearden's ideals of providing a platform for artists to talk about their work and to expand the stories of people who knew and worked with the artist. The foundation also preserves a collection of Bearden's papers in library. We recently launched a major project to publish the digital catalog raisonné of Bearden's unique works online with the Wildenstein-Platner Institute. For more information about our work and our programs, please visit www.beardenfoundation.org. But tonight, we are honored to present artist Ronnie Phillips and to share with you his extraordinary work. Ronnie says, a quote, "I aspire to assist others to deepen their process of self-reflection through my work." Ronnie Phillips has worked as an artist, educator, and photographer, beginning his career in Los Angeles, his hometown. He had the opportunity to be the photographer for the Olympic Committee and to capture a number of entertainers such as Tony Bennett and Red Fox. Many of his photographs have been published in magazines such as TV Guide, Essence, and Ebony. From there, he developed his own unique take on art photography. He has featured his children in most of his paintings, and Ronnie's works display cultures from America's rural heartlands to the villages and cities in West Africa and Brazil. He began with an array of hand-colored photographs of children in period clothing. He then moved into bolder photographic statements, juxtaposing disparate images such as the beauty of youth with harsh surroundings. In expanding his talents, Phillips then took up painting and injected new possibilities with mixed media. His works now vary from colorful collages of his images to acrylic paintings embedded with elements of his photographs. Phillips' work has received national praise and awards. His art graces the homes of celebrities such as actress Halle and Cecily Tyson, Bill Cosby, Damon Wayans, David Alan Grier, director Spike Lee and Bill Duke, and legendary recording artist Dionne Warwick, and many, many more. He now resides in Atlanta, Georgia, and participates in at least 20 shows annually. But tonight, he is here in your box. And so thank you for joining us, Ronnie. Come on, Ronnie.
Hello.
Hello. How are you?
I'm fine.
Okay, we're good to have you. We're really happy to have you. Ronnie, what we're going to do is we're going to chat a little bit, and then towards the end, folks on the call will have an opportunity to write in the Q&A box and send us some questions, and Joanne will collect them, and we will entertain all questions, most questions as we get. And those of you who are on the Facebook and YouTube pages, we're live streaming. Please do send us your messages, and if we can catch them, we will try to ask Ronnie them then. Okay, so Ronnie, let's just start out with a little bit. I mean, I'm really anxious to hear all about the different techniques and things that you've used, but let's just start out with, your beginnings, a little bit about yourself, where you've, got your chops, and where you came to art.
Yes. Well, I was born and raised in Los Angeles, and all of my folks worked in the aircraft business, the Lockheed Aircraft, Douglas, and all of that. So that was supposed to be my following. I was supposed to follow their lead. And I went to Fremont High School in Los Angeles. And at that time, that was the only Black high school where you could major in photography. So I majored in photography at Fremont High School. And the only reason I took it because it was kind of easy, and it was fifth and sixth period. And like after lunchtime, school was out for me because I had photography. And I always did just enough to get by. And the teachers always pushing me, Ronnie, you got to take more pictures, you're really good. But my parents, as long as I got to see, I was fine. So I always just did enough to get by. And he was always pushing me to go ahead and do more. And I know one year, our school, East LA College, where I eventually went to, they always had a high school photography contest citywide. And our school was the only Black school that would enter this, and we were always winning a lot of awards. And one year the teacher he told us all who won something, but he didn't tell us what we won.
Oh.
So he all wanted to tell us all to go, and he came up to me and said, Ronnie, I really want you to come to this show. And I said, okay, but at the same time, it was a city track meet. So I went to that and hung out with my buddies.
Oh.
And it was going on at that same school where they have an award ceremony. So when I was coming out, leaving the track meet, I ran to a friend of mine. He said, hey, man, you should have came to the award ceremony. You won best in the city. And I had to go up there and get your award for you. And this was in the 11th grade.
Wow.
So my teacher never kind of forgave me for that. He really kind of got upset. And so when I left high school, my aunt got me a job at North American Rockwell, and I got there as a sandblaster. And I was there for 3 years. I ran into that same guy that I went to high school with. He would immediately went straight to college. And he says, hey, man, they got a real nice photography department at East LA College. You need to go and check in. And so I went there and started the class, and I just fell in love with it. And I left my job, and I went on to East LA College, and that's when I graduated photography, got a degree there.
Wow. Okay, that's a big step.
Mm-hmm.
So
I went on there, and I worked at NBC for a year as a stagehand. And while I was there, they had a Motown special. And it's the first time I'd ever seen all the Black entertainers given. Everybody was there. And I met this photographer named Howard Bingham. He was the first time I ever seen a Black photographer. He's Muhammad Ali's photographer.
Oh.
I told him I was a photographer. He invited me over to his place. I went over there and I met him. And he liked my work. But it was all college work. And he turned me on to Rogers and Cowan, was with the #1 PR firm in Los Angeles at the time. And I went over there and met her, Connie Stone, and she liked me. And so she gave me a job shooting Sammy Davis Jr. at NBC, where I had to work. I walked in there with my cameras and everybody, what you doing here, man? So I shot that, and they loved it. And so from then, she turned me on to this lady at TV Guide. I started working with her. So I kind of took off from there, and I just started working a lot of different firms in LA. So that's how I took off and started becoming a photographer in LA.
And did you have any early influences then for photography? Were there photographers you knew of and liked?
No, because I really wasn't interested in that at the time until I met Howard Bingham. And because I tried to get into the film, when I went to NBC, I was working on it was a minority pool program. The NBC, ABC, and CBS were hiring minorities to work at the stations because they didn't have any. So they started this program where they had minorities working in a different program. Now got into the stage technician program. I tried to get in the film department, but that way they wouldn't have it. And that's how I was a stagehand. That's when I met Howard. So I kind of took off from there.
Okay, so you were thinking about film. That was something you.
Yeah, I was thinking about film. I wanted to get in the film department and be a cameraman with the news.
Okay.
They weren't having it.
They weren't having it. Why not?
I asked him, I said, well, do you have any, this was in 72. So I said, well, do you have any black people in the photography department in film department? He said, no. I just
All
kind of
right.
hunched my shoulders and he just left it
Mm-hmm.
right there.
Mm-hmm. 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 And so, did you have any particular angles when you would shoot? So, I mean, like Sammy Davis Jr. So,
Yeah, he was on stage. It was the Sammy Davis Jr. special.
okay, so it was
So
a
I was
steady
just,
stage.
so the way when you're shooting things like that, you just stay next to the cameras.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's where you get your best shots. So I stayed next to the cameras and got my shots from there on.
Okay, great.
So
That
then the lady from TV
great.
Guide that I went and shot John Davison, Robert Guillaume, and then wow, I really started to roll and I went and got me a penthouse suite in Bunker Hill Towers. And I was just having a ball in Hollywood, and then all of a sudden I got turned on hanging out with the Hollywood starlets. Then all of a sudden I fell into the exciting world and detrimental world of drugs.
Oh no.
LA.
Okay.
I fell in that time, which was a story been told 1,000 times.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of fell flat on my face, but I'm gonna save that chapter for my book.
Okay.
So then I finally got my feet back together again, started back to school at Dominguez College. They got me a degree in communications, and wow, everybody kind of opened up their arms again for me. And I went to Chicago for my first time. I'm in New York for my first time. And then I went to Chicago, and that's when I did this series called Colored Nostalgia, which we'll look
Okay.
at pretty soon. And I took it to Mr. Johnson. I mean, I took it to the editor at that time. And so he says, okay, I'll let Mr. Johnson see these, so I love them.
Okay. I think we have some of those
Mhm.
early works. Can we show a few of those? Also, Ronnie, I wanted to know about the Olympics. I mean, when did you get involved with shooting?
Well, that's kind of that's kind of a good and a sad story. I got in on the ground floor. So they opened up the office. The Olympics was in '84, but they opened up the office in '82, and I got in on the ground floor. So I was the first photographer working for them. And then when it started, I started shooting for them, but they never met me. When that guy left, they hired another lady, Hootie Troutman from Georgia, to head the department. They was giving me work, and I was doing a lot of work for them, but they never met me. And so she
Oh,
finally called me and said, Ronnie, I want you to be the lead photographer for the Olympic Committee. We just fired a photographer. We want you to be the lead photographer. I go, wow. And this was in '84. She only pays $35,000 a year for 6 months, which you make a lot of connections, but that was great for me. So like I'm saying, they never met me. So I finally got down there, walked in the office, and they saw me. The lady just dropped her tablet, like, if you know what I'm saying. They didn't
and
know
this is
they
in
didn't know I was black.
1984?
'84, they didn't know I was black.
Wow.
And so when I got the interview, the lady said, well, Ronnie, if we don't hire you, we'll be calling you for jobs. And I never heard from them again. And
Wow.
that really got hurt my feelings there because I've been working for them a lot until they met
Right.
me. But I'm going
Right.
to save that chapter for my book.
Okay. Oh, okay. Another chapter of your book.
Now this right here.
Now
when
tell us again, this is the series called Colored Nostalgia.
Yes. In 1980, I forgot they were going to have the LA bicentennial. So I got this idea to rent these costumes, a Western costume in Hollywood. And I got all these kids together and staged them in different places reminiscent of LA in the '30s. So I rented these costumes. And so this is about 15 pictures in the series. So when I took them to Johnson Publications, the editor loved them. So he said, I'm gonna let Mr. Johnson see these running before we run them. And so I said, okay. So he said, well, we will be calling you for assignments and everything. So I finally called him. I said, well, so what happened with Mr. Johnson? He said, oh, Ronnie, Mr. Johnson loved the series till he saw that Miller man.
But he what?
Till he saw the watermelon boy, carrying the watermelon boy. And he said that turned him off the whole series.
Oh, wow.
I said, well, how come he just can't leave that? I said, well, no, man, they just turned him off. He said that'll make black people think that black people steal watermelons. So they don't want to series because of that. And I've getting a lot of different cities like Chicago, they don't like this picture. In LA, they like it. New York, they like it. Atlanta, but certain cities get kind of turned off with this watermelon picture. And
this was unprompted. This was just your idea, your artistic project.
Yeah, I was trying to get a grant from LA for the bicentennial. They were giving out grants, so I came up with this idea. I'll take these
Okay.
pictures reminiscent of LA in the 20s, I mean, the 30s and the 40s.
Okay.
So they had a costume place called Western Costume in Hollywood. You rent everything except a police uniform or a Ku Klux Klan outfit.
Okay.
So I rented these. So I'll take the kids down there and they were trying the costume and I would take these pictures. And this is like in the 20s and 30s when they didn't have color film.
Hmm.
They would take a black and white picture and they would sepia tone it.
Right.
Paint right on top of the picture to add the color in. So that's what these are.
Okay, so this is colorized. So you
Well,
actually, it's
when
an
you say
actual
colorized,
drawing.
that's more digital talk. These were all hand painted. They've
I
got an
see.
oil called Marshall Photo Oils.
Mm-hmm.
It's an oil for photographs where you paint on top of the pictures, but it doesn't opaque it out. You can still see the highlights of the photographs. So these are all done with oil, like they used to do back in the 30s.
Right. And was that something you had learned how to do in college when you were studying photography?
Yes.
Or did you just experiment?
Yeah, no, I learned this how to hand paint pictures. That was one assignment that we had.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Let's see a few others in this series.
Yeah, this one's called Daisy here.
Mm-hmm.
Now this one, these are my cousins here, Omar and Randy. And when I saw those shoes sitting on the shelf coming loose, I said, "Hey, I got to have those shoes." That's back in the day when we used to sew shoes together.
Right.
So I had a pair of them, and when they come loose, we used to call them shoes are talking to you because they'd be flap, flap, flap.
That's right.
And
That's
so
right.
we got there late, and it was closed. So we was climbing the fence, and his shoe was getting caught in the fence. And the security guard came and saw us, but he thought they looked so cute. He said, "Go ahead and take the pictures, man."
All right. And where is this taken? It looks like
This
an
is taken in
abandoned.
Griffith Park at a place called Travel Time, where they got these old box cars. And I took this picture in 1980. So
Okay.
Omar, the tallest one, he's 50. He just turned 50 years old.
All right. All
So
right.
let me see, 50. Let me add up. So I was 12 years old when I took these pictures. So
Mhm. Yeah, right. Okay.
now this one, Mark Warren, who was one of the first Black TV directors, he directed Laugh In. And I met him when I was working on NBC, and I knew he had a son. So I told him what I wanted to do. So he invited me over to his house, and he liked my idea so much, he rented the costumes for me. He paid for the
Okay.
costumes.
All right.
And this is Hollywood, ranch stables in Hollywood. We went up there and I had him stand there, and the horse just walked up and started chewing on his hat. So that worked out just great.
That worked out just great.
The last time I heard about him a few years ago, he works with the Red Hot Chili Peppers. He's the stage manager for the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Oh yeah, the band. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And this was the first one that I did. This was called Little Miss.
Mm-hmm.
And this one's called Treasure. And that figurine in front, that's a very expensive piece. That was my grandmother's doorstops made out of cast iron.
Oh yes.
That's my cousin in there. And that's the shoe that the Miller man had on at the time. I stuck in there to hold the box up.
Okay. All right.
That's another hand-tinted photograph. There's like about 15 pictures in this series.
Mm-hmm. So what was the general reaction from these pictures? I mean,
oh yeah, I'm glad that's a good question. I had my first show in 1981 at the Smella Lewis Art Gallery.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I had all these works at. And the show was, I had all the pictures hanging there in a very beautiful gallery, and the show was packed. But the problem was it was packed with all my friends. And so I sold one picture off the wall that day. And we looked up at all the cheese and wine was gone. And the gallery director said, "Well, Ronnie, we need to talk after the show." She said, "Now we were trying to make money here, okay? You know, when you have a show, you don't invite your friends here trying to sell work. All the food is going, so one piece of work." And what happened, someone told the LA Times about it. And somebody from that worked with art came down there and did a story on it. And she extended the show and I almost sold everything in there. So they did an article on it in the Times. So I just lucked up on that one. So it ended up being a good show.
All right.
But it was a big learning experience for me too.
Mm-hmm. And tell me, Ronnie, there's a lot of young people in your pictures. What is the importance of young people to your photography work?
Yeah, because one reason because children sell, and they are our future.
Mhm.
They are our future, so I always use a lot of kids. That one that was just up, can we go back to that one? Can we go back to that collage? This one right here.
Yeah, this is
This in there.
fascinating. Yeah.
This picture I took right after the Rodney King riot. This was an old laundromat that was burnt. This was a laundromat that was burnt down during the Rodney King riot.
Oh,
And the actual picture, the little boys there. And I was posing a couple of kids around all the burnt buildings, and everything else I placed down on top of the picture.
right. So it's a collage.
This is called
of
a photo
images.
collage.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The angel is my daughter when she was like 4 months old.
Okay. All right.
It's
And
called
so
it's called Aftermath.
after mass,
It's kind of a little
why
spin.
is
That's why I
that?
got the nun in there.
Okay. And Ronnie, so you said that children sell, meaning they're popular, endearing. Um,
Yeah, with
you
the shows that I do, they're all children. People come in and just smile and, oh, look at the kids, So yeah, children really sell. And I found that men buy women and women buy women. So the little girls sell a lot better than the boys.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, and this one right here, I was sitting in my car and I saw this little boy walking down the street with this sucker in his hand. And I took that picture and I made the collage a little later. This one is called the double cross.
Mm-hmm. 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 And how is it working with children?
Oh, they love having pictures taken. It's wonderful. This
Mm-hmm.
one is my all-time bestseller here. This is my daughter. This one called I Choose Life. If a title doesn't come to me right away, I don't name the pictures. It's coming because the title can really mess a picture up. But we
Mm-hmm.
weren't here no longer than 1 minute. She was taking ballet at the time. I told her to clie, and she clied, and boom, we took this right here. And it said Crip for life. And I cut off the Crip for it and have the life there. And this is old school. This is before digital. This is all darkroom work. I superimposed those clouds at the top. First, I printed the picture of her.
Yeah.
I covered the top part up. Then I put the clouds in there, and I covered the bottom part, and I superimposed those clouds in there. Then I hand tinted them.
Right. So when did that technique come into your work?
Well,
Superimposing.
that came in college.
Mm-hmm.
That came in college.
Mm-hmm.
And
But
then,
you're employing them there with this series.
right. This one here, it's called Final Call. That's the name of the newspaper.
Mm-hmm.
And it's another hand tinted photograph. And his dad is standing over there facing him, kind of telling him how to walk. And when I first took this picture, it was like about 2 o'clock during the day. And before I knew it, it was like about 15 kids standing behind us, behind me, who were all in the gang and everything. And my friends got kind of nervous. I didn't, because this is my own neighborhood. You see where it says that NHC stands for Neighborhood Crips. That's their hand sign. It's the E and a C. That stands for East Coast Crips. Then it says 6H Street. I used to live on 66th Street, so this is my old neighborhood.
Okay.
This is a grocery store. And the grocery store owner, he would always come out every day and paint over the graffiti, but he never did paint over their hands because it was so high up. And we were
Right.
wondering how he got up so high. This guy was the artist to do that with a paint can. I mean, with the spray can to paint those hands like that. But the next day, all that graffiti was right back there again. Very next day. So we left and came back about 9 o'clock in the morning. That's why it's got that long shadow on there. So we figured fall asleep. So we came back the next day and took this picture.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. And so just one question about that.
Which one?
Well, I wanted to go back to the one with the graffiti.
The boy or the girl?
This one.
Okay.
That last one.
Final Call, huh?
Yeah.
That's been a popular.
Has any of your work like that been used politically, either on a book cover, album cover, or in to illustrate a story?
Not politically, but the Color Nostalgia series. I'm glad you asked that question. I know Barnett Honeywood had her work on the Cosby Show, because Cosby was featuring a lot of artists on this show. So I called her up and asked her about that, and she turned me on to the art director. So I went, at that time, you can go and see him. And I showed him the series. So he said, I really like these. Let me show him to Bill. And Bill bought two of them for the show.
Oh.
And one of them was The Boys on the Train.
Mhm.
And another one was the twins that I had. And the one show that he had, I remember when she broke her foot, she was in the bedroom and she broke her foot and she was sitting in this chair the whole show in front of, behind, and the picture was right behind her the whole show. So
That
from
must have been
there,
a-
I went to Amen, went to that show, and they bought, on that show, I have my pictures on every single wall there.
Mhm.
Amen, Heat of the Night.
Mhm.
There's about several shows that bought the work at that time.
Mhm. Mhm. Wow, that's amazing. And so as part of the reaction to your work, that it looks older. I mean, are people often mistaking it for work that was done in the
Oh, all the
30s?
time, all the time. Like some of the shows that when I first started doing, when I was first showing that work, they were asking me, where did I get the pictures from?
Mm-hmm.
I told them that I took them. I took them in there.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
shot, yeah. And
Right.
you asked me about the political part, about using the word politically. I haven't had any use political, but I think that every artist should do a political, at least a couple of political pieces a year. I always do about 3 or 4 political pieces.
Why do you think that? Why do you say that?
Why artists should do that?
Yes.
Because the situation that we're in right now, I think that we should make statements with our work. And like a lot of my work, I have things that you have to find, like the one that we saw called the Double Cross.
Mm-hmm.
There was a slave ship in there. I meant to show that to you, but you have to look for it in order to find that.
Mm-hmm.
And my daughter sit there in the window, she's looking up at it. So that's one of my political pieces. But I think every artist should do at least a couple of political pieces a year.
Okay. All right. And be a part of that, use their work in that way. Okay.
Mhm.
Well, let's look at a few other that we have in the QE and get you talking about some of this double exposure work. This is fascinating.
Grandma's Hands.
Mm-hmm.
That's my Aunt Hattie. I took that picture on the front porch. And again, that's old school, that's dark room. Now, we're going to get to some other digital work, but this right here is still old school, where I took her picture. Then I went into the dark room put their negative and then enlarged, and I covered up
Mm-hmm.
the middle part where her hands wouldn't come through.
Mm-hmm.
I took that negative out and put the negative of my daughter, and I superimposed her in the face there.
Right.
And the funny thing about this, I did this in my daughter was 3 years old, so that's 1987. So when I first took it, people were saying, "Is this your mother?" So I said, "No."
Oh.
And then at first and then they said, now they're asking me if that's me.
Oh,
I took it
I
a long
see.
time ago.
Okay, because that was your grandmother, they wondered if that was a portrait of your mother.
Well, just show you how I've aged, because yeah, that's my Aunt Hattie, my
Mhm,
mother, and then my
mhm,
daughter in the face of the hand there.
mhm, mhm. Yeah, this is more of, now this is actually a photo collage, which I think you may not be able to see.
Well,
The
this
audience
is
may not be
my
able to
newer mixed
realize.
media, where I'm
Mhm.
painting the scene. I found I got tired of photography. I just wasn't feeling photography anymore. So I took a painting class, my first painting class with Charlie Palmer. I
Mhm.
took the class there. So then that's when I started putting my photographs on top of my paintings.
Right,
So
right.
I paint the scene, then I cut the photograph out and put it on top of the painting. And this is from that series. This is the little boy where the horse was chewing on his hat.
Mm-hmm.
This
Mm-hmm.
is that little boy. Huh?
Yeah, yeah. We actually have a question that might be relevant right now.
Question
Somebody
came
that,
in.
what's that?
You see a question came in.
Yeah, just because I think it's relevant right now is, did you get releases for the kids' photos? I think I commented somewhere that you use your own children and relatives, but when you are taking a picture, say, of the boy walking against the wall, do you need to get releases for kids' photos, or are they older?
Well,
It's not really a
good thing
big deal.
about it. I guess you should, but they were all close friends. So I need to do that, then also gave them a piece of the work.
Yes.
I give them some of the work, and so I never did deal with the moderators. I never did that before.
Right.
I've never had any problems with it either.
Right. And does your family like being used in the artwork?
Oh yeah.
They do.
I was thinking, I'm working on my book right now, putting my book together. My photography was going to be all my photography, but people that have purchased my paintings said, "Man, you got to be crazy. You got to put those paintings in there also." So it's going to be a combination of both of them.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Let's take a look at some more of the paintings. Yeah, what do we have? I like this. Can we go back to that last one for a second? We included the photograph you gave us of the collage that you used. I mean, the photograph you used in the collage.
Yeah, boy, this one got two titles: "Boy with Hat." Then later on, I placed this famous image on top of his hat. Am I not a man and a brother? And I was trying to decide if I wanted to really put that on there or not, but I don't think it works. So this how it looks now. You just don't have the picture right now, but he has that old drawing on his hat there. This is called Daisy and her chickens. And I took pictures of all those chickens. My mechanic, he raises chickens, so I'll be over taking pictures of all the chickens. So yeah, this is Daisy again.
Yeah.
And that's all that texture at the top.
Yeah.
It's called gesso. It's a big white paint.
Yeah.
And then while the paint is wet, that's when I place those pieces of wood in there that I get from Michael's, the hearts and the birds and the tree limbs. Those are all pieces of wood that I get from Michael.
Oh, okay. So those are objects that you then painted over with gesso.
So first I primed the canvas with gesso, a thick white paint. So I kind of know where everything's going to go. I know where the trees are going to go and everything. So while it's wet, that's when I place those pieces of wood in there, so that the paint is actually holding those pieces of wood on. So when it dries, that's when I paint the scene.
Okay. Okay. It reminds me of collograph plates that Bearden made in the early 60s, where he built up the surface with pieces of cardboard and then used them as plates to make prints. And he would paint over it with gesso, just like that.
Right.
Yeah. Beautiful effect. Yeah.
Thank you. This picture has really been stirring some hearts. I had a show in Memphis, and then my friend asked me if I wanted to go to the museum. Wonderful museum. It's connected to Lorraine Motel in Memphis, where Dr. King was shot.
Yeah, it's the Civil Rights Museum.
Right, Civil Rights Museum. We walked past this room, a dark room, and walked in there, and all these lights were shining down on these letters. And you could hear a pin drop in this room. I went up to the letters, and these letters were the actual letters that were taken, after slavery, they had this newspaper called the Southwestern, where the former slaves were sending in letters, trying to find their loved ones. And these are some of the actual letters that the former slaves sent to the newspaper trying to find their loved ones. And there was over 2,000 letters, and they had about 40 of them on exhibit.
Wow.
So I called the museum, and they told me where I can get the letters offline. And they got about 50 letters online, and the letters are really wonderful. And they've also got letters from the slave to their master. But the name of this is called Lost and Found. And I just got the idea to do this clothesline and put these letters on the clothesline. These are all letters where the former slaves were trying to find their loved ones.
All right. Yeah, it reminds me of the way quilts were used, where they'd have symbols on them and they would hang them up, and they would be touchstones and places where, runaway people could find their way by what were on the quilts hanging in the yards.
Whenever I do the show, I always put this picture in the back of my booth. I don't put it out in front. I don't want to hit him in the face with this one right away. I wanted to kind of find this one. And people go, oh, this is such a beautiful painting. And when they start reading it, they all grab their chests
Yeah.
and take a deep breath, like, oh, wow, this is heavy. So, and
Mhm.
that's the, I try to put some deeper symbols in some of my paintings. This one's it's called Twistings. The one that's
Mhm.
on the tile is
Yeah.
stands, it means resilience.
Okay. All right. You had a lot of symbols in the last one with the trees.
Yes.
Are those little objects, are they significant throughout your work?
No, they're just mixed media, and I don't mind if people touch the paintings. There were hearts and birds and tree limbs and different little objects always placed in there. Just mixed media. Like in this one, I have the butterfly up there
Mm-hmm.
that I put in there.
And it adds
And this is
texture.
the first time I ever painted a person. I've never painted a person before.
Oh,
First time I ever
okay.
painted a person. That little boy I took a picture of in Ghana.
Uh-huh.
He was eating some dirt. Well,
Okay.
let me stop that. He was playing in the dirt, but
He was playing in
we've
the
all
dirt.
done that before. I've ate dirt before when I was a kid. I only did it once, but we've done it before. But yeah, this is the first time I ever painted a person. And I put the little boy down there.
Yeah, yeah. That's great. That's great. And how big is this? What kind of scale are most of these? Are they small? Because I'm thinking about people being able to read the writing that's on.
Oh yeah, that one's oh yeah, I had to make it small. That one's like a 38 by 20.
Mhm,
Then I
mhm.
had Jaclays. This one was so popular. I had Jaclays that this one made. The Jaclays are 15 by 30. But yeah, you can read them clearly.
Mhm, mhm. And you mentioned G. Clay prints. Are they available
They're on
on?
canvas. They're on the gallery wrap canvas. The gallery wrap canvas are the ones that are like about 2 inches high. They're not the thin canvas. It's because
Mhm.
I paint the sides of the canvas. So when you get a gallery wrap canvas, you don't have to frame. You have to have a frame because I paint the sides of the canvas, so you just hang it as it is.
Uh-huh. Okay. All right.
This is another days. This is the railroad. I use railroad tracks a lot. This one is like she made it from the cotton field to the flower field.
Ah,
So I got
yeah,
railroad tracks separating the cotton.
yes. And there was another one called Daisy. That one came earlier. I think that was Daisy too, maybe, with the hat.
Yeah, that was Daisy.
Mhm, mhm.
This one here.
Yeah, right.
And the other one was Daisy and her chickens.
Yes, yes.
Now
Oh,
this
yeah.
here, the
This, I
picture I
love
had,
this one.
thank you,
Mm-hmm.
the one I had a little boy at the laundromat
Mm-hmm.
around the King riot. This is the same kid.
Okay.
When I first moved to Atlanta, I had a good friend of mine named Eddie Granderson. He said, "Man, you got to go see this sister's work, Lynn Mary. You got to go see her work." So I went to the gallery, saw her work. And it's the first time I'd ever seen a person painting on top of a photograph with acrylic paint.
Yes.
And just kind of turned me all around when I saw this. And so she'd have a scene that she did with a photograph. You would just change the whole scene coming on top of it, picking everything out. So this one was one of the burnt out buildings. And this is just a little ledge there with a building, and he just kind of jumping over it. So I just picked everything out and painted this scene here. So this is actually one of the burnt out buildings here, but I picked it out and painted this scene here. And it's called Target. And that's my grandmother's sister there. Looking, I got a lot of, I have a lot of,
Oh, inside.
I have a lot of old photographs. My family took a lot of pictures
Mhm.
back in the 30s, 40s, and 50s. And I still have that camera too. So
Okay.
this is one of the pictures. This is my grandmother's sister there.
Okay.
That's
And
my
you have
aunt's.
that same symbol from the that was on the laundry
Right,
line.
that's a Giami. It's the first one, means God's omnipotence. And then the second one is twisting their resilience.
Mhm. And then you have a third one here.
Yeah, don't ask me what the third one is. I forgot what that third one is.
Okay.
I should know, I gotta look that up. And that's my aunt and my mother down there at the bottom.
All right. All right. No, I was thinking of the train tracks earlier, and someone made a comment about, I think it was Joanne who's remarked that Bearden used train tracks a lot
He did.
as a sense of movement of people and riding the rails. Is it significant to you in any way, train
Well,
tracks?
he was one of the person I studied. He was one of my influences.
Oh,
Uh,
good.
yeah, the railroad tracks have a little meaning too. It depends on what picture I'm using it on.
Mm-hmm.
Like that one right there was separating her from the cotton field. So it has different significance depending on the picture that I'm working on.
Mm-hmm. 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 Okay, let's move on. Let's see a couple more. Because I know I want to get to some of the abstractions too. Do we have any more on the slides? Yeah. Oh, this one I love.
Oh, peace.
Mm-hmm.
That's my daughter again, the one that was in front of the graffiti when she was 5 years old. And this is actually, she's walking in front of a wall of graffiti.
Mm-hmm.
This is from my graffiti series, but I cut her out. Then I painted this
Okay.
scene and put her on top of there. And this is reminiscent of, it was back in the day, it was everybody's dream to have a house with a white picket fence.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I painted this white picket fence. Then, as you see, I put objects on there. I got the key,
Yeah.
and the heart on there, then the wooden
Mm-hmm.
star at the top and the butterfly.
Yeah. A lot of political meanings. The target, the flag, the graffiti.
And this was really popular. So I had a Jaclay made of this one also. The Jaclay of this one is like 15 by 30.
Right. Now, is there some place that folks can purchase these glyclays? On your website?
Right.
Or directly through you or on your website?
Website.
Okay.
I haven't placed this on the website yet. I'm going to put that. I really got to update my website because I have a lot of new things. So I have to put it on the website.
All right. Yeah, we have to make sure that we put that in the chat, your website. Oh, yes, yes. I love this one on the right.
Oh, Dinka temples.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's where I have all the different symbols there.
Mm-hmm.
That first one is Sankofa. It's been a while since I've seen this picture here, so I kind of forgotten all of them. But I know the last one is the war horn. Then I got my favorite one is the twistings. I really like that.
Yeah.
That one means resilience. They have the Giami in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I was looking at this for a long time before I actually saw there was a person, a figure
Little
down
girl
in
down there.
the middle.
I took that picture of her in Africa. She was looking out of her dwelling, and I took a picture of her and I just placed her in there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The one on the left is my daughter. She's 23 now, but she was 4 years old when I did that. I do a lot of work with trees because people really love trees, and you can see the woman's torso in there.
Mm-hmm. No, I can't actually.
The trunk of the tree.
Oh yes, of course. Of course. Now it's so obvious.
That's another second reading. I always try to put different kind of readings. Because my daughter is painting now, and she painted a tree. And I said she painted some roots. I see that body in there, so she didn't see it. So I kind of put it there, and then she said, "Oh, I see it now." Then, so she's doing that now.
That's very clever. Yeah,
I'm glad you didn't see that right away.
Yes. Okay. Good.
You see the face?
Yes, I saw the face.
The mouth is right at the butt. It's looking right. The mouth is right by the butterfly. The nose,
Yes.
the mouth.
Yes.
It's like a profile.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very clever.
You didn't see it right away?
I did not see it. I did not see it right away. But when I was looking for the trunk, the woman in the trunk, I did notice that profile on the far right part of the tree. But
I did my job then. Didn't see it right away. Good.
Yes. Yes. And what is it? And what is your hope with that? Is that people just continue to look, or
people continue to look?
Mm-hmm.
They find one thing. Cause the kids always see the hearts.
Yes.
Kids see them right away, and then they see the face. The grown-ups don't see them right away, but the kids, some of my kids, they see everything right away.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I suppose those are little happy accidents that happen along the way. They're probably not predetermined.
Right.
Yeah.
You can see on the bottom there in the grass. I got some leaves down there. They're all made out of wood.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I see. Yes.
And again, the gesso was holding that on.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right, let's move on. We got a bunch of questions in here that people want to ask. A few questions.
Some of my newer work here. Now this is digital.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I didn't see my first cotton field till I moved to Georgia. And it was a while before I seen it, and it was just beautiful. Beautiful as it is, it has an ugly history, but
Yeah.
it was just beautiful. So I was at the dentist's office, and his assistant showed me this picture of this cotton field that she shot over my phone. I said, "Where did you shoot that?" She said, "Loganville, Georgia." And next week they're having the tractor parade. So you need to come. They're having the tractor parade. That's where all the cotton fields are. So I went out there, and I missed the tractor parade, thank God, but I went to the little festival they had. And it was so funny, they had this big cotton field. They were charging people $5 to go pick cotton, go pull up a whole stalk. So it was kind of strange with me and the lady that was taking my $5. Here I am paying her $5 to go pick some cotton. She was kind of embarrassed, but she charged me anyway. So I went, and I gave it a $5. I went over there, I was pulling up a stalk, and I looked up, and all these people were trying to take my picture. I'm like, what? So I turned my back to them, like, oh, take a picture of this guy picking this cotton. Like, no, not me. So this is a picture of a torso of a friend of mine. And I did this in Photoshop. I took the picture of her with a negative, but I fixed up into Photoshop. So what I did, I took the picture of the cotton field with my camera. That's digital. And then I went into Photoshop and I placed her torso on top of the cotton field. And I went to a tool called opacity. Brought her torso up and down. So I got the right look that I want with the cotton coming through her torso there. And the original name for this was called Master's House, which I thought fit the picture just fine because, I mean, you can see the story, Master's House, but it was hitting too hard. I had a couple of artists said, "Man, you need to change that name." So when I had on the exhibit at a show, people loved it, but they didn't want to have Masters on their wall, that name.
Okay.
Black people didn't want it, and then the white people definitely didn't want Master's House on their wall. So that's why I changed the name to Cotton Story, so you can make up your own story for it. But if it was hanging in a museum, it would be Master's House.
And did people actually comment on the title?
No, only my friends.
Only your
My
friends.
friends were, nobody would at show company say, "You need to change that title." But a couple of my artist friends said, "I love the picture, man. We need to change the title." And people did love the picture, but they would say Master's House and kind of rub their chin. So I was like, well, maybe I need to change this title here, Because, like I said, Black people didn't want the name Master's House on their wall, neither did white people. So kind of stories I like because you can get your own, make your own story from it. Like I said, that depends on your own ideologies and you can do what you're going to get out of the picture,
Well, good. We wanted to look at some of these more abstract works. Tell us about this. This is an interesting process.
Yeah, Mark Rothko is always one of my favorite artists, where he just did these squares. He didn't have that abstract thing, and they would like be all one color, the another color at the bottom. But it would be like that. But I was taught artist out here named Eddie Grandison. He taught me to mix my paints on glass. So I was always mixing my paints on glass because it was easy to move the paint around. Then after I got so much paint on there, I'd peel it off. Then I could start all over again. And I know my friend Charlie Palmer, he was doing the same thing. He was peeling the paint off the glass, and it was a beautiful, once you peel the paint off, it was beautiful. He hadn't quite figured out what he was going to do with it, but he was saving them. But one day I just happened to flip the glass over and saw this beautiful painting.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, I've been missing this all this time.
So we're looking at
this is what is real popular in Africa. It's called reverse painting on glass. So the way I explain it, you're looking at the first stroke of the brush.
Right.
When you're looking at a painting, you're looking at the last stroke of the brush. But on this, you're looking at the first stroke of the brush. Did you follow me?
Yes. Yes, you're looking sort of at the bottom of the palette. Right? The bottom of the palette.
Just imagine on the other side of this painting here, you're painting on it. So that first blue right there is what you're going to see.
Right.
And so all the other colors are behind it. And then I painted black to get the shadows and the contrast in there. After I finished the painting, I paint the back of it black.
And why are you attracted to this process? Is it the
It's just a
surprise
beautiful
element?
abstract by accident.
Right. The surprise
But
element.
now I've been doing some on purpose. Now I've been doing something, placing the colors in certain spots.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
as you'll see as we go along, but yeah. But then I came in and scratched that out, the black out, and made it like a Rothko painting there. And this is my
Okay.
daughter again when she was 4 years old. And I put the photographs on top of the glass.
Okay, I was just going to ask that whether or not they were on the other side. This is beautiful. And so how did you know, is it?
This was another accident. This was when I
Has
was just mixing my paints on glass and I flipped
Mhm.
over because I had a stack of them and I flipped over. I was like, wow. I said, let me see if I can use these.
Mhm, mhm. And so is this where you're headed now? Is this a transition into abstraction that you're working on now? Or are you also doing photography?
Well, if I do a photograph, it's going to be for a painting.
Mhm.
I'm not just doing any photographs, but I keep getting hints from people to do that. Like one friend of mine, it was a gallery owner I had already. She said, Ronnie, I really like what you're doing now, this mixed media, but I love your photography. I can't start taking pictures.
Yeah.
So most of the pictures I had been doing when I started with travel pictures, when I was going to Africa, Brazil, and taking pictures of children. So and then I
Mhm.
go to the paintings, but this one right here is my newer work. Yeah, so I really like this. So I'm going to
That's
take this a little
good.
further, do some big larger ones. These are all 8.5 by 11 on a 16 by 20
Mhm.
mount, but I
Okay.
did some larger ones.
Mhm, mhm, mhm. That's beautiful. That's a
Thank you.
beautiful arc of your career. And so, do you have any exhibitions coming up? Any new projects you're working on?
Well, yeah, uh, my first show is going to be here in April, the Dogwood Arts Festival, the show I've been doing for years.
Hmm.
And right before COVID hit, it was a 3-day show. And after the show, the director came in my booth. I told her, I said, I think, it was about 100,000 people came through. She said, no, Ronnie, it was 200,000 people came through here over 3 days.
Wow.
So it's a big show. And I got my daughter in right after COVID, got her into the show. It was her first outside show.
Mhm.
And she said it was not far from mine. And she had this painting that was $4,500 that she really liked, big one. So I said, well, damn, if somebody offers you 3,800 or 4,000 for it, oh no, Dad, I got that 45 for this. I might take 4.
Mhm.
Some young black couple came up to her and said, how much did she say? 4,500. Okay, we'll take it. So she ended up making twice as much as I did at that show. She made over $10,000 at that show, and her grandmother was there. Her grandmother started crying because she's selling all this work and everything. So she was thinking all of them were $10,000. I said, no, damn, they're not all $10,000 shows. So her next show she made $1,800, but it was still okay. So
Right.
we got into a show in Raleigh, North Carolina. That's going to be
Mhm.
in April. It's called Art Explosion.
Mhm.
So it's gonna be our first out of state show. So we're gonna travel there together. So
So that's one question that we got in the Q&A is what is it like having a daughter who is an artist?
Yeah, I always had her in art classes when she was a little girl during the summer. And her mother's a fashion designer. Her mother wanted to be a fashion designer, and she really wasn't sure what she wanted to do. So one day I just set up an easel next to mine and had her paint this church, Van Gogh's, one of his paintings, the church that he was buried at. And so she started painting that church, and it came out just wonderful. And wow, it came out so nice, but she just kind of took off from there. So she went back she majored in art at Georgia State, and she graduated with her degree in art at Georgia State, and she's been doing pretty well. They've got a gallery here in Stone Mountain called the Art Station,
Mhm.
and they got a gallery there, and we put our work in there. We're both members. So I went there before they hung the show, and he said, "Look at there, man. You got an HM next to your picture. You want honorable mention,
Oh.
but your daughter won second place."
There you go.
I said, "Okay." So when they had the award ceremony and the reception, a lot of people there. Her mother was there, her grandmother was there, and everybody. So me and a friend of mine, Freddie Styles, we were standing up next to the stage, and the guy was just messing with me. He came up, they said, "Ronnie, I don't know what you stand up for. Stand up here for. You didn't win nothing. Your daughter won number one, second prize." Everybody started laughing. So, but I was so happy for her, and that's just really makes you feel good. You know, people said, "Well, you upset?" I said, "No, I'm not upset. I want her to be better than me.
Yeah.
I want your kids to do better than you did." So she's been doing pretty good with her work. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we have another question that relates to that. So does your daughter work with you? Like, have you guys worked on projects together, or maybe worked on a art piece together?
Nope, no, she's got her own place. She's over there work. She likes to paint at night. She'd be up at 3 o'clock in the morning painting, you know.
Mhm,
I don't
mhm.
like to paint. I like to paint during the day. So she'll come over here with one of her paintings because she's doing mixed media too, where she's placing, well, she paints in oil,
Okay.
but she's got me beat with the technique. You know, I can't paint faces and everything like that. She can paint faces. So she comes over here, and I got a whole box of things you put on top of the paintings, like, you know, the wooden stars and everything. So she'll come over here. We'll go through some things to place on her pictures. So yeah, we do that way. But as far as her, she's on her own now. She's just taken off. But she does
Mhm,
come over here and ask my advice for what she should put on top of the pictures, you know,
mhm,
and show me what
mhm.
things she's working on. So yeah. But no, as far as collaborating, not yet. But I'm sure we're gonna do that at
Yeah,
some time.
at some point, right. Well, just a few more questions here. I noticed that someone said that they noticed a figure in the last piece, and that was
That
one,
abstract?
and that was one that's untitled. And you gave the title basically as, you know, reverse painting. So it doesn't seem like a title is important there, but
No,
other
no.
titles are very poetic.
Well, that's the thing about abstracts. People see different things. Because
Mhm.
one lady was showing me this, trying to show me this face, but I couldn't see it. Now this one right here was different. This one I laid the glass on the floor. Uh,
Mhm.
Louis Delsart was a very famous artist. I just loved his work. Where he would finish a painting, and he would just stand on top of the paint and stick his brush in the paint and just splatter paint all over the painting.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I did a similar thing with this. I just laid a piece of glass on the floor and I just splattered it, and it made that line going down there, and it kind of shot out.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then I made another, I sprayed it again, and over to the right-hand side, you see little splatters. Well, what happened here, I put it on top of one of the other glass paintings.
Mhm.
So that's what this is. So this is two put together here.
Mhm.
Underneath is one of the glass paintings, and I just laid that on top of it. And all that is, so I laid the one that has the black splattered on it on top of a painting.
Mhm.
So I
Mhm.
kind of actually
I
hooked up
see.
on that one there.
I see.
But people do see face. I kind of, now that I'm looking at this now, I see a lady with blonde hair down at the bottom, and I see her head and her shoulders and everything. But yeah, people
Okay.
in abstract, people see different things. They'll see things in
Yes.
there somebody else doesn't see.
Right. Right.
Somebody
Um,
saw a face in there.
well, someone had seen a figure in
Oh,
there.
oh, yeah, the figure. I see the
Yeah.
figure. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a
Yeah.
splatter that I did.
So we have time for just two more quick questions. One is, what prompted you to move to Georgia from LA? Who
Uh,
moves, who moves from LA to Atlanta?
well, one reason you want to buy a house, you move here. You want to buy a house in LA. But my first show I did out of state was when me and my daughter's mother were together. My daughter was, I think she was 4 years old. My sister-in-law family had moved to Atlanta from Gary, Indiana.
Mhm.
And her sister told me, she said, "Ron, you need to come out to Atlanta and do this big show they have out here called at Piedmont Park. It's called the Atlanta Arts Festival." So I got in the show and had my work all sent out here. And it's my first time in the South. And I set my booth up and everything. And my first time in Atlanta, never been in the South, didn't know what the heat was like. So they said, "Do you need a tent?" I'm like, "No, I don't need a tent. You know, I'm from California, I need a tent." Boy, when that sun came out by 12 o'clock in Atlanta, hitting on top of my head, I said, "Yeah, I'm gonna need a tent." So it was too late. I said, "You either got to bring a tent here, I'm gonna have a sunstroke." So they would put up a tent for me. But everyone was so nice. I had a line going out my booth, and that Atlanta, that Southern hospitality was still alive and well. And I just fell in love with the city.
Mhm.
And so
Mhm.
I kept coming out here every year to do a show. Then I finally had the opportunity to buy a house. My sister-in-law said, Ronnie, won't you buy it? And I said, well, I have all these school loans. I can't. She said, well, it's a non-qualifying loan. Back then, they had non-qualifying loans where you didn't have to qualify.
Mhm.
I said, okay, well, let's do it. So I bought my house, moved to Atlanta. And as far as me being on the festival circuit, most all the shows out this way. There's not many shows on the West Coast.
Mhm.
They're all up in Chicago, Florida. So it's kind of like year round because from November to March, all the shows are in Florida. That's when
Well,
all
that
the
was another.
we
That
call them
was a
snowbirds.
question.
It's when all the snowbirds are there. People that don't
Yeah,
pick
but that
out.
was another question about where can people see your work? Do they have to come to Atlanta, or are there museums that are
If
showing
you
your
go
work?
on my website, let you know where I'm going to be. And I got to
Mhm.
update it, let you know what shows I'm going to be in. And every October, they have Atlanta's a big photography city. It's called Atlanta Celebrates Photography in
Mhm.
Atlanta. So I've gotten, I talked to the lady that's over at the Aviation Center. It's a gallery run by Cultural Affairs. So I'm
Mhm.
going to have it doing Atlanta Celebrates Photography. And so it's going to be a call. Where I'm going to put out a call for artists, and it's going to be called Real Surreal, a different way of looking at photography. So it's going to be all surrealism. So that's going to
That's
be in October.
cool.
But on my website, let you know what shows I'm going to be at. It's because I got quite a few shows lined up. One of Bethesda. I love that show in New York, Gracie Square Arts Festival. I really love that show. That's in September. And
Great.
so, yeah, my first show starts next month. That's when I get back on the road.
Well, that sounds wonderful. It sounds like a good note to end on. I hope you will accept our appreciation of having you this.
Thanks for having me. It was wonderful.
And we hope you enjoyed it yourself. I want to thank everybody for coming out, and we have Ronnie's website where you can see more of his work and find out where he's going to be. And yeah, it's been wonderful talking with you, Ronnie. I've learned so much, even though I did some research and now, but and you're a natural. You're very easy to talk to. So we
thank you very
really
much. Thank
enjoyed
you.
this. Yes, and I want to thank Nadal Canary, who's behind the scenes, and Joanne Bryant Reed, working the magic to make us look so good in the background there. And also want to thank Harlem One Stop and the Harlem Cultural Collaborative. So we thank you all for joining in, and we'll see you next time. All right. Thank you. Good night. Good night, Ronnie. Thank you. Bye-bye.